Welcome to the Legal Selva podcast.
Julio, welcome. Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás?
Buenos días, Angela. Estoy muy bien. Muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Sí, muy bien también. Julio is a polylingual specialist, which, very fortunate for both of us, landed him the difficult job of being my Spanish teacher. It's a benefit for him, due to my comical personality, and benefit for me is he is an absolutely excellent teacher and has put together a phenomenal company that provides language services, English, Spanish. I think you're getting into some French now as well. Is that true?
Correct. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
But also puts together community. I have traveled and met people who are teachers in the program and other students simply because of the connection you provided. I very much want to go to Medellin, Colombia.
Nice.
And Laura gave me an open invitation because that's where she lives. So she's like, if you come down, let me know. I will be here. So I think it's an incredible program that you've put together. So let's go back. I know from our other conversations, because in addition to being my Spanish teacher, Julio is also a good friend. We met through a mutual friend a couple years ago.
Vocational neighbor.
And I know that you have been studying English for about 25 years?
More or less, yeah.
More or less. I know that you have corrected my English a couple times. Thank you for that.
And you mind.
At what point in the 25 years did it sort of stem, hey, I'm going to take this skill, this talent that I've created and build a business off of it? What's the inception of Language Athlete?
I think it was sort of like several spots in the way. First of all, thank you so much for that introduction. You just made me fall in love with my company more. So thank you so mumuch for that. I started teaching, funny enough, with that belief that I was like, I'm going to do it for money. I didn't think teaching was a great job. I was just like, it's going to pay me and it's going to be good. And I did it sort of like privately. And then I discovered, wow, this is fun. Right. So then I just loved it. As soon as I tried it, I did like 2 months and I was like, I want to do this forever. Like, this is super fun. And then, but it was just, I'm going to be a teacher. And then I started traveling more and wherever I was working, it was creating my own stuff, So over the years, it became more of an idea, but it was never like, this is what I'm doing. It was more like, oh, right now I'm going to write a program and I'm going to write some exercises. And people started hiring me because they saw what I wrote. And then the last thing I did before I did Language Athlete, I helped open a school in Colombia, and the school we grew very big. It was a very nice school. And even the owner, she used to tell me constantly, she was like, oh, you're here for a while. Like, you're going to do your own thing. We're constraining you here, right? So after that, at some point I was like, you know what, I'm ready, I'm out. And then I started doing my own thing. And luckily I had worked in enough schools to realize, right, this is the type of client that I want. This is the type of classes that I want to teach. And from there on, I just had to decide on like what the philosophy was, what the name was. So that was like 4 or 5 years ago, I would say.
Okay.
And then from there on, I just developed,
And from there, here we are.
And from there, here we are, yeah.
And now that the world is digital and online.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
You have students everywhere.
That was such a good coincidence, because I started going online like a year before the pandemic. I just wanted to go online. And then the pandemic hit. I was like, oh, I was ready for this, and I'm sad for everybody that wasn't. But for me, it was like, good, I'm done. Tell me what you need,
Yeah, because it's now just so much more accepted.
Oh, yeah, easily. Like a bunch of people just want or prefer online. I mean, you lose way less time. You don't have commute,
I am the last person you need to sell this idea on.
Exactly.
I think we were in the same town at some point this summer in August, and it was still, well, we might just do this online because I don't want to walk around the block.
And we were actually pretty close, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and we actually met, but we met to hang out. But the class itself, it makes more sense. If it's easier for me to have 4 classes if I have 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, if I don't have to like welcome in, push out, welcome in, push out,
Of course. What, if anything, and I'm not familiar with Mexican law, but I'm learning at poco. Any would be the considerations from a legal perspective of either one, running the business in Mexico, or running an international business? Although I imagine it would still be considered a Mexican business and you just operate internationally.
Yeah, that's actually a very funny question because I'm just making that change from Colombia. I opened the business in Colombia and it was just like a Colombian business and I was just getting the money. Colombia paying taxes over there. It is exactly this week that I just had, the last week, that I hired a Mexican accountant to start working on that. So, which is funny though, is that I thought I would have to sort of like close my Colombian business and then bring it to Mexico and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, like you can open it sort of like a transnational, like you're not going to be a transnational, but in that sort of like idea that you have, you know, a location in Colombia, a location in Mexico. And because I have several employees in Colombia, it's actually going to be easier, right? Because then you can hire them with your Colombian company. You can hire your Mexican teachers in Mexico with your Mexican company.
Right. Okay. And do you use sort of any type of agent in Colombia that helps like this, or is it just something that you manage yourself?
Oh, it's myself. And to be honest, I need to pay more attention to that. I'm very bad at that work, so I know I'm always running behind and then going back in and stuff. But it's really because my business is not so big that it needs a lot of help. I just gotta pay taxes. That's really what you gotta do.
So big yet.
It's not big yet. No, definitely. I appreciate that, by the way.
Would I be considered in at the ground roots? And we're not going to talk about my progress at speed, but in terms of
I wouldn't say you're ground, but you're definitely in there. Like you're one of the. For me, I don't know why I think about that word, but like the classic students. You know what I mean? Like you're one of the ones that are not clients anymore. I don't know how to explain that, but you know there are people that come in. And our clients, they're kind of like, they're doing their thing, we're doing our thing, we're offering services, right? And with people like yourself, I have the feeling that we're kind of like both in the same boat now. And we're just kind of like, you know, well, you're here while you're here. I'm here with you. I'm happy to have you as long as you're here. Like we're friends more than anything, which is weird for me because I feel like I'm getting paid for friendship. I always have these conversations with friends like yourself, right? That I'm like, the job is so rewarding. The classes are so fun and it's always a trip for my brain. Like I'm getting paid for this, you know? So you are definitely part of that group. And your progress, I know you don't want to mention it, but you are one of our coolest cases of changing habits and getting better habits and then getting beautiful improvement. Me and Ruben, your other teacher, are talking about you constantly. I think you're one of my
never still met in person, by the way.
You haven't met him, right? And you work
never met in person. I feel like he's one of my best friends. Like you said, there was a period where, you know, things, especially Canada in December, or
right,
not always the nicest place. So, you know, we go out of the house less often. I found I was working from home. I really didn't have a lot of personal interaction.
Right.
I was taking a foster dog, so at least I would have, you know, someone to talk to once in a while. But I had you and Ruben. And so I would log on. And there were some times I'm like, oh, I've gone 3 days, and these are the only two people I have spoken to.
You know, if I can add something to that for people that are listening or people who are listening, Angela and Ruben have such a great relationship. I'm almost envious of it. Like Angela and I are good friends, and we chat. But whenever Angela talks about Ruben or Ruben about Angela, you guys are like best buddies. You know, it's like, oh my God, me and Angela did this and we talked about that and shit. And then you come to my class and tell me the same from your own end. It's so beautiful to watch.
Thank you. I think part of that, though, for everyone listening, the structure of the program, at least for my programming, is what Julio and I do a lot more grammatical. So it's more structured, it's more planned, more based. Where Ruben and I just talk. It's conversation put into practice.
Exactly.
You guys talk, you know, between our classes and in your programming, whatever, and he'll come in, he'll be like, okay, Julio and I talked, and, you know, today's past tense. We're going to talk about whatever, but we are going to try and, you know, use preterite past tense today or whatever, whatever it is. So one of the very first things he did with me, we played I Never Never. Like, a lot of your secrets come out there. You know, listening, it was played in university as a drinking game or different things like that. I think we might have even had like glasses of water for it just to make the game coffee or something. But like your secrets come out and, you know. Hey,
and you become buddies, man. Like, I remember I did talk to Ruben after that. He told me he did that. And I was like, I was just like, just be very careful, man. I was like, you're lucky you did it with Angela, because Angela is very open-minded. She doesn't get offended. Like, it's good. But I was like, just be very, very careful when you make those games with clients, because you never know if you're gonna ask a question that is, crossing a line.
Yeah, no, he knows I don't mind. It's funny though, because and you obviously know this, but for, everyone listening, from after the classes, all the notes and the commentary and that during the classes, it gets flipped into an app that you can use for language and to practice. So I like, whoever is uploading this one this week is going to be like, what are they
doing? No, as you know, I have the tendency to make like awful jokes in the class and like weird ass comments, right? So I just excuse my French there. Karen is the one making the documents for Quizlet, and every now and then she texts me like, hey, should I send this card? I'm like, yeah, send it over. And like, I wrote that. It's like, okay.
Yeah, send them all. That's funny. And where is Karen?
Karen's actually like 2 blocks from my house in Ciudad Juarez. We live very close.
Nice.
Lovely girl. And with a lovely family. Her husband is super nice.
And it must be nice for them, because I imagine their schedules are very flexible.
You know what happens though? That will be more for Laura. Karen has another job. Karen works with me like 2 hours a day, right? And then Laura, though, she's with me only, and it's very interesting because I think she brings me structure more than like she's always like, oh, sorry, do you mind if I start an hour earlier? And I'm like, I don't care, And she's like, I'm gonna be there at 8:15 instead of 8. I'm like, dude, you just do your work. I'm not even gonna notice. Like, she even told me the other day she apologized because she took lunch an hour later. I was like, you don't tell me, I'm not gonna know. So her and this is one of the things that makes me the most proud is exactly today before this call, like 2 hours earlier, she was telling me that she feels very happy and that she talks to other friends with jobs and they're always complaining about the job and she doesn't feel that, you know what I mean? So I think definitely because I've worked, I try not to be like very rigid on the schedule or, I just want them to do their job, and I try to be nice to them. I try to be open to them. And yeah, so it's definitely chill. It's a chill job to work with me, I think.
Good. And I imagine that the structure of the business, I don't know if it would require that, but like that's what's available now, because I am, in talking with people who reach out to you on LinkedIn or recruiters or, people applying for jobs. They're all over the place. Flexibility is otherwise a non-starter. If you do not provide this, I am not interested, because there are just so many options otherwise.
And there's two things I want to say about that though. Number one is some people will start anyway because they need the job, but I am as flexible as I can with Karen and Laura and everyone, and I really don't demand other than their job. And when they ask permissions or help or whatever, I was provided. And what I get in return is like way more than I would ask for. Like I sometimes get messages from Karen on Sunday. She's like, hey, what about this? What about that? I'm like, what are you doing working on Sunday? She's like, well, I didn't finish this. I'm like, all right. And there's help that I need sometimes. And they're super proactive about it. And they don't have to, and they just do it because they're happy. And the other thing I have to say about that is in this time and age where we know now that if you are nice with the people that you work with, they're going to work good with you. To choose to be inflexible and to choose to be like mean to the people that you work, it's just a choice. It's like, oh, I want to be angry all the time. Like, why would you?
Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, like every meeting that we have, we're lasting for an hour, and I'm like, why wouldn't you choose that meeting instead of a meeting when you're like, rah, rah, rah. And sometimes I have to say like, oh, please, you didn't do this. We're still laughing though, like we're still being like, bro, can you please, like, one of the meetings that I remember the most is Ruben not filling one of the reports or whatever for a while. And I was showing him that we're using ChatGPT and how can I train them or whatever. And we were laughing through it. It's like, I'm trying to help you and I'm trying to make your life easier. And I cannot because I'm doing your job because you're not doing it, so you can have fun and do everything else, I think.
Of course. I take a lot of meetings in the dog park. I believe I've even taken some of our classes in the dog park.
You have. It's easy.
Gabe loves it.
Rob, one of my friends, which is also your friend, the one who introduced us.
Our friend Rob? Our Rob?
Our friend, yeah. Our Rob, yeah. When we were living in Sayulita, we were very close. He's also my business coach, and we would have coaching and classes. We would have, let's say, the coaching having breakfast and then the class walking by the beach. That was such an experience, you know.
I'm with you. So Rob edited, when I met Rob and then you a couple months later, I was finishing up my MBA. I had to do it with your capstone project.
Right.
So Rob edited it for me. And we met at Yaya's. The coffee wasn't even there by the time, we got through everything.
Right.
And in 20 seconds, I realized why businesses pay Rob, in my view, whatever he asks for.
No, he's such a beast.
Tell them what to do. Because he made 2 comments. I'm like, that's absolutely genius. And I think the capstone project ended up with an 87 or an 89% or something. And it was 2 tiny little tweaks.
Yeah.
But just being around, and, my full MBA was online as well. My capstone project partners, I think one was in Texas, one was in California. One guy was in Egypt.
Right.
Had a small stroke halfway through the project.
Oh, wow.
And then still ended up coming back and getting like in the top 2% of the entire class.
No, Rob for me is like, I don't know many people that I admire as much, he's so talented, so crazy talented.
I want to swing a little bit back to the part where we were talking about moving your business from Colombia to Mexico. Now, you are solely only own Mexican citizenship, correct? Or
That is correct, yeah. I'm Mexican.
Okay, but opening a business in Colombia was not really an issue. You just figured out what you had to do and did it?
So what happened is that at the time, me and my girlfriend had like this, we're not married, but kind of like civilly unioned, whatever, license.
Okay.
So that gave me residency. And then...
She's Colombian.
She's Colombian, yes. So as a resident, I was entitled to like bank account and business, whatever I wanted to do, right? I think you can do it anyway if you're not from there, but I mean, being there was way easier. So at the time, I didn't have any plan to leave soon. Like I knew I was going to leave at some point, but so I just opened it there. And yeah, I mean, it's not, I hate that word. So I hired somebody to do it with me, but it wasn't really difficult. It was just like you go to the place, you bring the documents, they give you your number of registration or whatever, and then now you have a business,
And then transfer it and registering it in Mexico, the same. That's what the accountant does.
Yeah, so basically, here they have a number called RFC, which is RFC. It's like the Registry of Contributors for Federal or whatever, and so you give that number, and then you register what type of business person you are. Like, are you a natural person, I think they call it, or are you a business, like a big business? So I'm going to be like a natural person. And then from there on, they just charge you taxes on every income you get because they know that the money that you get is not from a job, right? And as long as your company's not pretty big, it's that simple. You just get money. Oh, this month you got this much money. This is your taxes, right? And then you say, okay, I paid these employees, or I paid this, that, or that, and then it's done.
I'm learning a little bit. So I think the Canadian or the Ontario equivalent of natural person is a sole proprietor. So we have sole proprietor.
I guess so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whereas, you're not as big, you're technically not incorporated.
Right.
This is something you can talk about down the road for all the different reasons. But one of the things that we put together, and I appreciate it's not, a focus on international businesses, but if people in your exact position, hey, I want to start business ABC, whatever. I have a friend who runs a gym, and she's like,
right.
I can teach you how to walk on your hands, and I can teach you how to climb a rope, but I do not want to know how to register a business number because that's just not my jam,
I feel
so
you. I'm the same.
From the lawyer's view, you're like, okay, well, if I put together a package that, we will do A, B, C, D, and everything that you need to get your business up off the ground, cover all of your legal requirements.
Right.
And let you actually operate your business because, I don't do what you do and you don't do what I do. So
that's my accountant pretty much. Like I hate documentation more than almost anything in the world. So he just goes like, oh, you got to go here, you got to go there, you got to pay this, you got to pay that. I'm like, thank you.
And I can tell you the feedback from entrepreneurs has been amazing. Like, yes, do all of the things that I don't want to do. And, I'll be honest, in Mexico, I paid someone to get my car registered.
Yeah,
because
it's time.
it wasn't just time. It wasn't even the language barrier. It was, okay, so wait, I have to go to what mechanic? The guy under the bridge, okay. And no appointments, so I have to get there at 5 a.m. to make sure I can get out by noon when he's going to close. And then I have to go to an office that doesn't look like anything that official. Right. I was so confused.
So in my perspective, that is still ties to time, because like if you've done it enough times, you'll do it really quick. But I mean, even teaching for me, it's about time. You're saving people time. Like I am of the belief, and I've talked to you about this many times, is anybody can learn any language with no teacher. I don't think you need a teacher, but what a teacher does is it saves you 10 years of your own research. He shows it to you in a year.
Small point. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but it makes you accountable. There's many, many times where at study, I don't know if you, like a week ago, we had a class and I was at my friend's house and I went and sat on the balcony and we had a class. There is zero chance I would have studied for that hour while hanging out, with my friend, other than the fact that I had a commitment to you to be there.
True. And that applies a bit to the lawyer or the accountant. Like I don't want to do those documents, but if I go, I'm like, I have to do it.
And I'm in my role, I'm going to hold you accountable for what you need to do. I was talking about this with a friend yesterday. I can't remember who it was or exactly, but we refer to it as non-work work. So it's all those projects that you want to do that is not, say, directly billed to the client, but would fall under business promotion or, it's being active on LinkedIn. It's reaching out and doing other projects that are related to work. I really, really like writing. So it's doing writing projects that, whether it's research or not research, it doesn't matter. And I think they're just as important.
Yeah, like I think I want to make sure that I don't diverge a lot from your point, but I hope adding to it is that's sort of like the business in a nutshell. You know what I mean? Like I just like teaching and writing. That's what I like to do only, and like coming up with ideas and solutions. But then if the more I do that, I need to make more promotion. I need to make more sales. I need to like blah, 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 blah. I do accounting. So I've always said that I love growing the company because every time I acquire a new person to work with me, I'm like, I have a new weapon, I have a new person to help me do something. It's like a video game, you know what I mean? And then you acquire something, you're like, oh, I'm a bigger thing now, and then we together, like I wouldn't do half of what I do without them, and nor them without me. It's like we have to do it together. It's really cool. So it's like, and funny enough, they like to do what they do, which I hate, like they organize and whatever. And they're like, oh, this is what I like to do. I'm like, that is crazy. I used to feel guilty about being the face, right? Until my niece, who was working with me back like 2 years ago, and she was amazing. And she was like, I wouldn't be able to do what you do. She was like, I don't want to be in the face, just talking to everyone and just being on YouTube videos and stuff. It's like, it's good that you do it. I'm like, that's funny because I enjoy that. And I was feeling guilty you weren't getting that, It's just like everybody is good at what they do. You just kind of like pile up skills, I guess.
It's nice. I guess the point I take from all of this is, your happy employees are going to provide for your business tenfold.
100%. Yeah. Not only money, but also just the fact that the stress that I have is close to zero thanks to the fact that they do that, which I hate,
Exactly. Money, but adding personality and interest. And like I said, there was a while when you and Ruben were my only friends during the week.
Right. It's very cool.
Now, it's helpful because you have the personalities that you have.
Right.
With someone who might have been bored, but it wouldn't have meshed. Like the energy wouldn't have been in the same place, or like, because I'll be honest, and I may have told you this before. The first couple months, I hated it. I absolutely
you told me that,
hated these classes, and it wasn't you, and it wasn't Anike, who was my teacher at the time before Ruben.
Yeah.
It was that I barely knew what I was doing, and I don't like feeling stupid. I don't like feeling frustrated. And, that at the time, I was in grade 1 as far as Spanish was concerned, if that.
Right. I would like to add to that. I think that's a conversation I have very often with clients and with teachers, definitely when I train them. It's learning a language is such a psychological experience. It's not like anything else. You gotta come and then, especially people like yourself, that you're very good at something already. Like you're a lawyer that is successful, that you have a good job, and then you're good at what you do, and then you come and then like you suck. Right, and you pay to suck, and you pay to be in front of someone who's
Exactly.
and you pay to be in front of someone who's asking you to suck on a regular basis. It's like, oh, by the way, fail at this,
Not to interject though, it's not so much that like I can handle being bad at anything because
Right,
the whole you can be bad at it before you're good at it. But
right,
it was just there were times I feel like I see no progress, and we go over something, and then the next week I'm like, and part of that's on me. I'm like, I need to put in more study time. I need to
right,
whatever. But then there's little points where it clicks. But even now, as commenting to this to my friend Laura when I was at her house last week to our class, I will walk out of classes with you and Ruben, and let's just say even in the last 6 weeks,
right,
feel great after, or feel like terrible after. Like sometimes I'll go, oh, that one went well, and that one did not go well.
right.
And there's no rhyme or reason. It's not like I feel 85% better coming out of one of you. No, it flips. Malta, have a great
Yeah.
class with one of you yesterday and like a really frustrating class with the next one today.
That's why I call the school language athlete, for so many reasons that you already know about, how much you got to train like an athlete, and you got to do it every day, and discipline, blah, blah, blah. It's like, even those little things, right? Like even when you train, you have great days, you got shit days, and then you got to do both, because you cannot just be like, oh, it was shit today, I'm not going to do it anymore. No, like you got to probably do it twice when you don't want to do it,
Well, you know this. I grew up playing a lot of sports.
Right,
my father
exactly, yeah.
in things since we were little, basketball, tennis, whatever. But I felt like I had more control over that one.
Right.
Just be like, well, run harder, try harder.
My assessment of it, I teach a lot of people, and I think there's a whole combination, and I love this because, as you know, I coach people sometimes on their goals as well, and it's very similar. The job is like some people, a lot of the time, the learning itself is just math. It's very simple to learn a language, really, but what it comes with it is like the feeling of insufficiency, the complex of I'm not good enough, I'm ridiculed, not learning, the whole where you focus your reticular activating system, right? Like your attention system. Are you focusing on I'm doing well? Are you focusing on I'm not doing well? Am I remembering that when I was a kid, my dad would make me feel like awful because whatever, like all of those things crumb together in the beginning of the relationship with the client. And as you move forward, you get to know, okay, I got to push the client. I got to like pat him in the back. I got to push him again, pat him in the back, challenge, etc. And when you find that sweet spot of like, I know how you learn, now this is fun. We're all friends. But so it can take a month. It can take 6 months sometimes,
So what's my spot? Because I don't know what it is. What's your insight on my spot?
I think the insight is I had to let you find your own limits, because in the beginning you could talk, but you had a lot of bad habits, right? And I'm not sure that you enjoyed me correcting you. So whenever I would be like, no, it's not like that, it's like this, your response would be sort of like immediate, like, no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. And I kind of like, I know this, right? And so I had to be like, all right, you do it, right? And so you had to just go around alone, and then just kind of when you went to a limit, you'd be like, okay, I don't know how to do it. Okay, as soon as you got to the point that you realized you didn't know, you came to me, and it's like, tell me how to do it, and then it was easier for me to clean that up and to show you, bro, I know you don't like it, but we need to clean the very basics. Like, as much as you don't like it, we need to clean, I eat pizza, you kind of know it, but you don't know it. And once we cleaned that, when we started doing that verb after verb exercise, like some months ago,
yeah, I know what you mean.
You just started flying, dude. After that, it was after that all of the feedback you get from us was like, you're doing great, you're doing great, you're doing great. After 6 months, you're doing amazing.
So just, the frustration was not with you. My frustration was with me. And
yeah, it makes sense, definitely.
That doesn't just apply to language. That kind of applies to, all things with me. It's how,
and as I said, right, that's how I felt as a teacher, but that's my point. Like, that goes back to your life, like whatever experiences you had made you that, and I have to deal with it. I'm like, all right, she's got this personality. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist to know her reasons, but I gotta deal with this, right? So what is my best approach? And I would think, all right, if she's trying to prove something like that she knows or whatever, for whatever the reason, I'm going to let her prove it, and then we can work together, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate that, you know.
Thank you. Oh, man, I appreciate working with you. I love working with you.
I have a class with Ruben in about 3 or 4 hours, so we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
And then we'll talk tomorrow. But on that, I think we're coming close to wrapping up here. It's been an excellent conversation.
Yes,
I knew
thank you.
this one would flow easily. Like, you know, as people have heard, I have more conversations with you than anyone probably. Any stories stand out in your years of traveling and teaching and, you know, students all over the place? Anything jump out as that was a funny one or that was a really good one? Or what are some of anything we can sort of leave people with as your most memorable?
Oh, that is a horrible question. I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean, like, I love what I do. I would say I would group it up more as I love my job because I have the feeling that I get paid to be loved. It's so crazy. Like, it's kind of like being a bartender. You know, like when you're a bartender, people come to you, you give them booze, and then they love you. And you're like, dude, I'm doing my job, right? So I'm a person who loves learning. I really love learning so much. And you know, when you watch a movie with a friend who hasn't watched it and vicariously you enjoy the movie through them, right? So I love teaching because I kind of learn through my students. I'm like, oh, I see you learn and I remember the feeling and I enjoy solving the problem with you. So I do that because I love it. And then people give me love because of that. And that's my job, you know. So if there's anything that I would call as a story, it would be that as a whole, you know. Like, I am so fortunate to be having a bad day because I just woke up depressed or whatever. That would be a story, actually. One of those days where you're like, you don't want to do anything, you just want to like, and then you're like, I'm gonna have an hour of work, and most people will be like, shit, I'm gonna work. For me, it's like, oh, I'm gonna work, and then I work and I feel way better after the work. You know, I just had a good conversation with a good friend. And I just wish everybody can do that, right? Like, I wish, you know, everybody find their way, the most possible to like make their job as fun as possible, because it's such a beautiful thing.
Well, you bring a lot of, you know, great as possible to a lot of people that you work with. And
thank you. Thank you.
I hated it at the beginning, but I never hated it.
No, man, like it's part of the process. It's really the process, right?
Exactly. And like, I feel good about it more, you know, than I don't.
And then it makes you, I would imagine, you tell me, but enjoy the process now way more. Because like now,
way more.
You're in that you're like in that sweet spot where it's learning, really.
Well, Julio, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias por tiempo hoy.
Gracias a ti.
Ha sido un placer como siempre.
Un placer como siempre, Ángela. Nos vemos mañana.
Nos vemos mañana, sí.
Chao, chao.